Man, oh man.
Yeah, buddy.
Karl Steadman, sex sells, dude. You are here for it. Let
I
me see here.
did my hair and everything, buddy.
Dude, me too. Me too. All right, here's what we're gonna do. Sweet. So kind of housekeeping rules, guys. If you can, make sure your shit's on mute. Because I'm too dumb to figure out how to mute everybody. So if you could just make sure you're on mute. And here's the rules. Here's the rules of engagement. There are no rules. There we go. Especially with Karl. So here's what we'll do, guys. As we kind of get into the discussion, instead of just like waiting till the end to ask questions, raise your hand. I don't know, whatever the hell you got to do. Just say something or raise your hand on that little button, or just drop something into the chat. And with my ADHD brain, we'll just go ahead and get into whatever rabbit hole we can get into from there. Oh, there's Aaron. How are you, Aaron?
I'm good. How are you
Good.
guys?
Oh, we're wonderful. We're wonderful.
It took me a minute to find how to get onto the webinar because I have to go to promotions and find what it's just, anyways.
But you're here. You're here
I'm
now.
here. Good
Okay.
morning, everybody.
Good morning. All right. So, welcome to the second edition of the Daley Fix. He's not going to be any better than Michelle. So that's why he's going second and not first.
Agreed.
But so here we go. Karl, buddy, I'll tell you what. I looked up Chat GPT on your for an intro for you, just to kind of just. But I think like you have like some sort of deal with OpenAI because it was way too flattering. So I'm not even going to mention it. But buddy, I'm going to let you go ahead and give your own little nickel version of the Karl Steadman intro.
Oh my goodness. What do you want? Like the half-hour version or the 2-minute version?
Buddy, we can go as long or as short as you want.
Oh goodness me. All right. Hi everybody. My name's Carl. This sounds weird having to introduce yourself. Huh? So good to meet you. I currently have a role with the MetFix Academy, which means I'm getting on the road and helping out, presenting on the foundations course, which is super great. Great challenge. Really enjoying meeting people, challenging myself as a trainer too. My background was in the CrossFit world, so I spent probably 15 years working for the company. But this is now my 21st year of doing that sort of training and training of others in that world as well. So a little bit of time in trade, many mistakes made. Ran a gym for about 17 years. No longer run a gym, but still coach. What else can I give you? I used to like beer a lot. I don't really anymore. I don't really know what else to give you, really. That's me. I guess we'll find out if we
That's
have a
great.
chat through this hour or whatever we got.
That's great. So I've had the privilege here to get to know Karl pretty well in the last couple weeks, last couple months. We even traced around Jolly London town together,
Yes,
of
sir.
which Karl is a bona fide UK celebrity. Everywhere we go, Karl is like stops. People stop on the street. They want to get to. They would shake his hands. Like it's crazy walking around anywhere you go with Karl in the UK. Just be ready because he's well loved and it's well deserved. So we're pumped to have you here, buddy.
True that.
And yeah, and Ireland as well. Yes, of course.
That's right, Lorna. Tell them what's up.
So I gotta get up to speed on my UK faux pas because as much as my geopolitical information goes, I'm struggling behind, but I gotta get caught up. Yeah, true that, Brian. So here's what we're gonna do. This is breaking news, I believe, for everybody on board here, but we are proud to announce that Karl is coming on board full time. And basically, he's going to be responsible for UK and European operations, to include everything to do with on the academy and on the affiliate side. So that literally just happened last week, and yeah, obviously it's well deserved, and we're very, very lucky to have Karl. So, buddy, congratulations.
Thanks, sir. I'm stoked. That means I'm Mr. Worldwide, right? Pitbull. Let's go.
That's right. That's right. So he'll be, I'm pumped that he'll be helping out on the affiliate side. A big part is on all the UK and European calls. I'm such an asshole because I'm forcing everybody to be on my time zone. So Karl can help in and get you, so you don't have to be like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night waiting to just talk to me. So Karl will be there to help everybody out. So let's just do some housekeeping on the affiliate side. So like I mentioned the last time, my goal is to at least do one of these once a month, get people from within the affiliate community or on academy staff, and we'll just kind of go through updates on what we're working on, kind of behind the scenes on the HQ level, so you guys are well aware, and also get some really good guests here to kind of help you out on the tactical application of MetFix inside of your gyms or your garages or wherever you're at. So first thing, we just announced the Go Ruck partnership last week. So we're very, very, very excited about that. And the good thing is, for our European homies, they have a distribution center over there in Europe. So you'll be able to get your free gift. And so I've known Jason McCarthy is the owner of Go Ruck. And interesting historical note, I left the Army in 2007, and Jason was coming into the unit that I left right behind me, including the exact same battalion. So we go back a fairly long way, and then we got to meet each other in person long time ago. But he was getting Go Ruck going, and I was getting Doc Spartan going. So that means we were at the CrossFit Games tour as vendors and the Rogue Invitationals and stuff like that. So it was really good to catch up with him there. And like what he's done with Go Ruck is amazing. He's got guys like Mac. His wife is a former CIA agent, believe it or not. And so that's kind of how the company got started. Was he got out of the Army. And like a lot of us do, he's just kind of flunking around trying to figure out what to do, and realized like folks like maybe his girlfriend or wife at the time didn't really have a handle on what they should use as go bags. So he kind of went to school and developed some interesting go bags for them to have, and that's kind of how the company took off. And then from there, they got into like the event space, and now where they're at is they make world class apparel. So, and the cool thing is they have their own kind of Go Ruck club program. So we're excited to kind of bridge those two organizations together. Like my gym is a Go Ruck club, and it's just a really cool way of low barrier entry fitness to get everybody kind of involved. And it's relatively easy to do. Just get everybody gather up, put on a backpack, and go rucking, go walking, go talking for a little bit. And when we started talking about the partnership, the one thing that was clear is he was like, we just want to do this to make sure we take care of the affiliates. So that's kind of the background for it. So we're pumped to have those guys on board. And obviously you guys don't have problem with communication because you're here because you got the email. But we're learning some of our emails, depending if you got Gmail or not, they're going to the promotional tab. So a lot of stuff isn't getting disseminated as well as I'd like it to. So we're getting ready to put in like a text message information program. Obviously, you need to opt in if you want that kind of stuff. But we're just kind of looking at what's the best way to get the most information out to you guys. And I'm sure if you're like me, you deal with this problem all the time too. Like, what's the best way to communicate to your members? And there's no really one easy answer. So wherever you guys are at and however you're paying attention is where we want to hit you at. So my man, I think that's about it for the update on the side of the house. Paulina, if you're listening, if I'm missing anything, just chime in because she's really the one that runs the show anyways. So Karl, my friend, welcome.
Yes, sir.
Welcome. So we're going to go right into the hard hitting questions. Are you ready for this?
All right, let's go. I warmed up and everything.
Bit of a speed. Hey, can you show everybody? Is the wind still whipping out there?
Yeah, it's kind of there. We got Storm. What was the name again? Oh, I forget. No, stand by. I got it. Floris, something like that. Sounds pretty tame with a name like that, but it's giving it big licks up here. We got like 10,000 homes without power or something. So I'll stand by. If I
So
disappear,
if he goes off screen for a little bit, that would be why, because he literally just blew off screen. But we'll square him away.
I'll put one of the kids on a pedal bike on the generator and just have them whip it up for a while. We'll be good.
Awesome. So, what was the last thing you ate?
Last thing I ate, breakfast, man. I'm just like my wife was going to get me an omelet before I jumped on the call, but life got in the way. So breakfast I had, that was nice. Do you want to know details?
Yeah, I want to go. Yeah, hit us with the details.
All right, man, here we go. I normally have the same one. So we got a real cool company out here called Organized, where they kind of like do protein powder, but it's all beef organ based. So it's all organ based and just all kind of blended up, all that kind of stuff. So super cool. I throw that into some uh, Greek yogurt in the morning and putting some berries on top of it as well as a nice little start to my day. So I kind of smash that out. That's my normal start.
Perfect. And what's your most favorite workout you've done in recent memory?
Like is an interesting word. I don't know as I like any of them really. I know that there's plenty of benefit to them, but I wouldn't say that any of them particularly light me up. And I'm like, oh, can't wait to do that one. Because if I like them, it means I'm probably kind of good at them, which then means it puts me further into the hurt locker on the side of it, right? So I used to really like 400-meter running, but that's just horrendous and leaves me throwing up in the corner. So I'll go out on a limb and say I really like the old school Helen. That used to be a favorite of mine. Run 400, 21 swings, 12 pull-ups, 3 rounds. That was I like doing that one. That's fun. I can get that one.
Perfect. Love it. Okay. And here's a much bigger one that'll lead into the discussion for the rest of the day. But why MetFix? Why MetFix?
Oh, nice. Why MetFix? Challenge, mate. A challenge, and also it was the repurposing of an original mission that I signed up for 20 years ago. And the repurposing of me as a trainer too, I think, and as an educator, I guess, which I kind of fell into that role. But it was a topic that I knew at a scratch level. And by that, I meant, as long as nobody really challenged me that far, then I could hold my own. And what I meant by that was it was like, no sugar. Yeah, roger that. Why? Well, insulin. Yeah, but why? Like it's as long as nobody kind of did the 4-year-old, yeah, but why question on me, then I was kind of good for at a scratch level.
Yep.
But if they did start to dig deeper, I knew that I actually didn't have the body of knowledge to back up what I was saying. I did have on the movement side. I felt like I was pretty good there. You could kind of drop me into a class and I could do that pretty well from a seeing and correcting and just a practical application of running a class. I was all right there. I could talk shit like the best of them. Really, that was kind of that's all coaching is, right? So I was pretty good there. But the knowledge piece, this was the repurposing of me and motivated me. I was treading water, for want of a better phrase. I think like for a long time, doing the coaching, doing the classes, enjoying that, and that was great. Affiliate life was awesome, but I just felt like I was treading water and in my ability to help people as well. I'd avoid the awkward conversation more often than take it straight on. There are great people on this call who would, they took that ball by the horns and they had that chat with people. I would kind of wait for my in, I think, more than being forward facing about it. I would wait for I don't seem to be improving. I'd be like, oh, let me talk to you about nutrition. I wouldn't be, I'd be waiting for my in kind of vibe rather than that. So yeah, I think that's the long answer to the question is the challenge of it, and I knew it was right. And this is yeah, motivating, challenging, and helpful all at the same time. Ticks all the boxes, bro.
Perfect. That's a great answer. So moving along that same kind of line is what is your favorite lecture in the foundations course?
Oh, I mean, I'm getting thrown under the bus hard, right? Pete wants me to do the insulin and Ross hypothesis, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm only just getting to grips with that stuff myself. Like, stand by, buddy. So maybe I'll get there with loving that at the minute. At the minute, it just terrifies me, and I've got to get into the weeds on it a little bit more, just so as I can follow the bouncing ball. It's been set up so well. Like the lectures, they flow really well, and they make sense from the almost the storytelling point of view, I feel. I guess the one that I'm really enjoying giving to currently, I really like the food and diet, just that little bit of a deep dive, because I feel like that's where I would start when I'm trying to help people with no background. But I also like the benefits of exercise too. I got to give that recently, and I just like the way that that's presented and how it can highlight the ways in which you can get similar effects from exercise as you would get from nutrition. And if you did them both, then you get the optimization. So I really like that deeper dive. I thought that was pretty cool. So those two, I think I wouldn't be able to tear them apart. I don't think those two are equal favorites for mine at the minute.
Awesome. Awesome. So, one of the big things that we get asked a lot, and we were just both down in Charlotte, is like, okay, what does this look like in the tactical application? So like when I go back home, how can I deliver this to my folks? So what would be like if we take that food and diet lecture, for example, um,
Yeah.
give us some advice on how to do that on a consistent level that kind of breaks through to the average member.
I think that's great. That's a good question, buddy. I think a lot of it is based on the understanding simply of what the macronutrients are made up of, what they even are. I think that's just that base level of starting there and just getting that out more often. That's normally where I feel like I personally have gone, internally, obviously not external because you're trying to motivate some folk, but internally I'll go like, all right, we got some work to do here when folk will be like, I eat well. I have, my fruits and my veggies and my carbohydrates, and in their mind, they've already separated out those things. Then that's where I'm already going, okay, we've got some foundational like groundwork to do here. But in my mind, I'm already like, oh boy, right, maybe I'm going to push right a little on some of the more complex stuff because we've just got to lay a solid foundation here of what food is, what it's made of, what's essential and what's not. Those were groundbreaking things just for my knowledge a long time ago as well. So having those things, just simply broken down factually, non-emotionally, I think is super powerful, because we're all emotional about it, obviously, and folk will have emotional attachments to food. But I think when you can present stuff with just sort of facts and logic, then folk go, oh, okay, and you can take it or leave it, right? I think I've always whenever I've presented anything to do with nutrition and people want to like hang their hat on one particular thing, then I go back in reference to when I was working and delivering the 9 foundational movements, and I'll be like, well, most of you really hated on the sumo deadlift hyper, and some of you didn't even want to do that in your damn program, right? But hey, guess what? 99% of the rest of the stuff's pretty damn cool. So go ahead and do that. Like if you want to hate on the sumo deadlift hyper, well, how about you do the rest of the stuff? It'll be pretty good for your fitness. And I'm kind of similar with a lot of the nutritional standpoint as well. It's like, well, here's the stuff. Go ahead and do it. But if you don't want to do it absolutely to a T, then don't worry right now. In my mind, I'm like, I'll get you eventually. But for now, that's fine. We'll just start with a solid foundation of knowledge.
Awesome. Awesome. And so I've seen, I think I'm looking at the crew here. I don't think everybody here has attended a seminar. So it might be worthwhile if we just kind of go through the 2 days, kind of tell that story
Yeah,
of what the seminar is, what we cover, and what we hope people to absorb from it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the fun piece is currently it exists in a certain format, right? Because we're always riffing and changing stuff up and being like, well, maybe that would be best presented there, and maybe not. And I mean, if anybody, I see you, Brian, you were in Charlotte, right? And Charlotte was warm. And that's me saying it. And so you can kind of imagine that some of the heavier stuff might not be best presented at the end of the day after you thrash people with like 3 different workouts and lots of lectures. And then you're going to go, right, everybody, now we're going to get into the mitochondria. Let's go. You can kind of see people like dying a little internally, So Maybe these things will change out, but generally speaking, the flow and the process is we kind of go on day one, super basic or foundational, I guess we should put is probably the term of the day to start off with. So you look at what MetFix is, defining the program, like how it sits under the broken science umbrella, what we're our aiming to do. So obviously with the diet prescription, with the exercise prescription, things like that, just a bit of a deeper dive as to what it actually is. And then you get to go and do a workout. And that's changed recently as well. So some of you were in the first couple of courses, you got to do some bike sprints. Um, and then Brian, you got to do an interesting riff on that, huh, buddy, where you got to do one that also included a butt ton of air squats as well. So that was slightly gnarly, but the aim was similar vein, right? Just trying to push off when you actually will kind of lean into your stored glycogen as fuel and therefore start developing a hell of a lot more lactate and crap out. So it's kind of like a little bit of a good fun training session, but also an educational piece as well, where you're kind of saying, hey, look, we're trying to work on fat metabolizing, but also if you can see how like if you're not that metabolically flexible, then you're going to tap into your glucose stores a lot quicker. So the practical example of that would be like, hey, who found that their legs were burning and they weren't able to keep up with the increasing efforts sooner rather than later. And so you've got a very practical example of like those characters are getting perhaps they're less metabolically flexible, less able to switch between fuel sources. So that was a cool little like learning piece straight out the gate, which I think is good. Then the story continues where you dive on into like food and diet. So in there, we're like, where does the food come from? Spoiler alert, you know, energy, sun, that's where it all comes from, right? And then you would kind of go down into a little bit of kind of like we'll look at the elements that it's made up of. So simple, you know, like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen kind of vibe, and then how we mix that all up to create the macronutrients, what those actually are, you know, how they're stored in the body, a riff on what's essential or not, you know, and essential just meaning that, you know, the body can't make it itself, so we need it exogenously. And that's a cool little piece as well, because you know you drop that little bombshell if there's no essential carbohydrates on that term. Although, as we saw recently on social media, right, people go crazy on that, and you're like, no, like glucose is still essential, but it's just that essential that the body's realized that it can make it from many other ways as well. So, you know, it's kind of just a good way of giving people some educational resources there, a little bit of a fight, ammo in the fight, if you will. Before we then kind of dive on into, well, the applications of the nutritional recommendation we actually see in many different ways. And I think that's kind of cool as well. There's, you know, Pete gives us a laundry list of about 20, but realistically, we grab four of them to bring to the audience just to give people an awareness of the many different ways to skin the cat, if you will, all based around the similar kind of variation on a theme, which is, you know, moderate protein, low carbohydrates, high fat. So a little bit of a riff on that. Then we dive on out. You know, I think there's some fun little pieces where we'll do some deadlifting heavy and why that's important and what that actually does to the body. Then we'll start diving a little bit, go into like the control center of the mitochondria, and we can start really going into like that little deeper dive into all of the really cool working bits. So we start off really low key and kind of foundational and high level, and then it starts stepping down deeper and deeper with each lecture, where we start really looking at, you know, what's made up of the cell, looking at the mitochondria, why is it important, how do we fuel that, and it starts diving even deeper into kind of like the electron transport chain. Then we start really getting fun, where we'll start diving on into the insulin and the ROS reactive oxygen species lecture as well, which is all about how you react to different fuel sources primarily, and how that's where the seed oil recommendations come from. Not necessarily the inflammation piece, that's a small part of the big picture, but primarily it's what the cells react to in response to these things being present and whether you actually get certain types of energy or not. And so if that's going to be healthy for the mitochondria in the long term due to these reactive oxygen species. So that's where that tagline of the commercial entity interested in the care and feeding of the mitochondria comes from, because we get that from the way that we eat. So it's just giving all of these building blocks as to the whys, so as you can explain it better to others. I should mention as well that the breakout pieces, you know, if anybody's gone through any of the CrossFit stuff, then you'll kind of know that there's always breakouts and they're normally movement based. These ones aren't necessarily movement based. They're called think tanks, where we'll take that
Mhm.
information, present some questions, and then we'll riff on them as a group, whether that's our experiences. And those can be really profound, actually. I mean, the ones that I've worked right out the gate, where you just ask people why they're there, those things can be super illuminating and super personal as well. And they're always amazed that people will share that stuff, and always very thankful for it as well. But normally most folk have turned up on the course because of something that's happened to a loved one, if I'm honest, a diagnosis maybe, or something that's happened in their life. And it's hugely powerful to then have that they have the honesty and the integrity and courage to actually give that out to people, but also because it just rallies everybody together that this is the right fight, this is the right cause, we need this information and we need to disseminate it. So it kind of sets things out. Most of the other think tanks are based around just trying to wrap your head around pieces of the puzzle, really. There's also slips done in there as well, which if anybody's actually ever done that workout, um, is fun. It's basically all the complexities of gymnastics, but without any of the danger associated with swinging around on a rig or ring. So that's a fantastic piece and a humbler as well for anybody that's gone through that workout.
For sure.
Right, and then we go. When we keep going, I can keep riffing. Got more here.
Actually, hold on real quick. Brian, can you come off mute for a second? And I'm picking on you, Brian.
Yes, go. Uh-oh, be
Uh-oh,
afraid. Be very
maybe
afraid.
not. I knew. Oh shit, he could do it. Hey, what's it's one thing to have me and Karl talk about the think tanks, for example, but as a participant, what was your take on it?
On the think tanks,
Yes, sir.
I think super great idea. Like, and everybody's seems very vulnerable to share like personal experiences. I learned a lot right there in the think tank. Yeah, like different ideas of how to implement stuff, or it was like I felt like they could keep going like for an hour. You know what I mean? Like we're still talking every time. We're still talking at the end. Had to cut you off. Shoot, we gotta go. So, but no, that was definitely great.
Yeah, and I think that's it's a unique perspective and application on it, because it's one thing to take from a top down lecture piece, but to actually be with other people who
Yeah.
who are there for the right reasons, and everybody has their own unique experiences they bring to it. So I agree, man. Like,
Yeah.
to me, the think tanks are some of the most valuable pieces of the entire course.
For sure. Very personable. Like you just had to be careful not to talk over top of each other because I mean, there's a lot of knowledge coming out. It was awesome.
Yeah, good. Thank you, buddy.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
so that's a good wrap on day one ish. So to me, like, day two is where the gold is. I mean, day one's great, but you're kind of like drinking through a fire hose. But day two is like that's where it all kind of clicks and makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like day one serves to almost give you a slap in the face, right? It's kind of like, whoa, here we go. And then day two is more the practical applications and the learning pieces, right? How to actually scale, how to adapt. And this thing is always growing. It's such a monster at the minute, and I love it, right? Because, you know, the folk that were there on like Foundations One at Rogue, that was kind of like herding cats a little bit, right? Just trying to run in here, there, and everywhere on running the workouts. We're just like, well, hopefully nobody's going to implode on these workouts because we got like 70 people just running around Rogue's warehouse and doing things. Hopefully people come back. But we kind of rapidly realized that there wasn't much, opportunity to teach teachers or coach coaches in those elements. So those have rapidly morphed into two elements that I had to run this last time out, which is much more akin to partnering people up and having them actually physically coach each other as well. So those practical applications are great because you then have to give the reasons why. I'll give you an exact example, right? On the deadlift and deadlifting heavy, we know this is a great day at the gym. Why? Because everybody's buzzing for it because it's so accessible, right? You can pretty much ratchet up the loading really quickly with people, regardless of background there. It's super accessible. The problem with that, as we well know, right, is that they'll probably tend to push those limits a little harder than perhaps they should. And then generating the awareness of folk as well, that depending on the group of people you're working with, the regular, let's say, athlete profile, avatar, whatever you want to call. We know that if we're working with that demographic, then there's gray area in what you're going to allow when they're at absolute maximums, right? Because they've earned that through time in trade and through training adaptations. If you're working with an elderly lady with osteoporosis, as an example, then that is an absolutely no-go on any movement whatsoever. You feel me? So you can see how it was a lot of that was actually implementing that, reminding trainers of that folk. There is no gray area now. It's either absolutely where you want it, or we cut it right there in terms of our coaching. So that was a good practical application piece, I feel. Just making people switch back on to, you need to change kind of what's allowable and what you can implement based on the people that you're working with, and an awareness there is super crucial. And that riffs straight the way into when we talk about the workout later on, right? Which is realistically just not the workout really, but it's kind of like the practical example of, here are some movements, how would you scale them, and now let's go, let's dive on into it. And I feel that's the super beneficial part of day two, where you're like, right, here's a situation, here's a person, here's their limitations, how are you going to scale these movements? I'm not going to give the game away, right, because you've got to attend the course and find that stuff out. But let's say, as an example, it's a pull-up. Normal would be like, well, you can't do jumping. All right, fine. Well, we'll do banded. Can't do banded. Well, we'll do jumping. And then that's kind of it, right? From a basic standpoint. So what we do is we kind of already make it so as that athlete, those two options aren't even available to them. So where do you go now? What do you do? Show us how that looks. And it's super cool because you can just let trainers riff on that, working with their buddy, and just come up with different ideas. And then that's really good because we can just kind of like hot pause the group and just be like, hey gang, let's have a little look over here, see what's going on here. This is a really good idea for scaling, so, and adapting this movement. So that's super cool for that from a learning perspective, because trainers just get to play in a I guess no risk environment, which is super cool.
Yeah, definitely. And so, one of the things that we are trying to get across to everybody is, like, whether you're attending the course or, you own an affiliate, you're doing a MetFix program, it really just comes down to kind of two things. One is continued education that's focused on metabolic health. And two is the skills and abilities to work with specialty populations. And that specialty populations just means anyone outside of your traditional client avatar, right? So it could be folks, in recovery. It could be you're working with people who are incarcerated, elderly, the very deconditioned, even stuff like first responder, law enforcement, veteran community, because they kind of have their own unique needs for that. But we're really like focused in on those two areas. And the reason is, if you look inside of your gym, you do have your traditional clients, but what evolution and advancement of information have you given them in the last 5-10 years beyond the movement side of it? And I'm speaking for myself here, and the answer is not a whole lot. And the reason is just like, if all you have is information on movement, that's how you think you can fix every problem. But in reality, it might be something significantly beyond that. So if all you have is kind of advanced level information on thrusters and burpees, then that's the answer to every problem that a client has that comes through the door.
That is never the solution. What are you talking about, Dale? Never the solution. Not even once. Thrusters and burpees. Great.
But somebody walks in the door, and like walking around the block is a significant, intense event for them. So what do you do then? So the information that we're providing and that we're focusing on is for you to have an impact for those individuals. And to do that, it's like, we talk about the only commercial entity that gives a shit about the feeding and care of mitochondria. Well, that sounds like a great tagline, and it is, but the reason is so you can double down and prioritize the feeding and care of your member. Really is what it comes down to. And so it's like, we got to kind of look outside of the traditional framework that we offer inside of our gym, and begin to kind of slip that stuff in, then to be able to go offer another program on top of it for those who are interested. And speaking of specialty populations, Karl, can you kind of tell us about the work you're doing with the veterans group that you're a part of?
Yeah, sure. So it's super cool. Basically, had a guy reach out who owns a woodland, super cool in Scotland, which is probably going to be a bit of a drama today. I'm probably going to have to go and help him out with some trees that have come down. But anyhow, what he basically does is he runs a veteran outreach program where he's a veteran himself, and he said that like the best time that he actually got sleep after and when he was dealing with PTSD and stuff like that was when he was in the woods, whether it was like camping out or around the campfire or swinging in a hammock in the trees. And so he realized that that's what we kind of wanted to do, was just do these outreach programs, which was get get the vets back together again, talk shit around a campfire, not really lead it, but just, facilitate it. They could rip the living fun out of each other, and as they want to do in that community, and then realized that he wanted to do more physical stuff. So we set up a ruck club first of all. So Royal D-side Ruck Club. Ooh, go check it out on Insta if you want it, team. So the reason why we called it Royal D-side is because we're round the corner from the boss's house, Balmoral. If anybody knows where that place is, that's the summer home of the royal family, darling. So the king gave me express permission to call it Royal D-side. So cheers, mate. Cheers, Charles. I'll have a cup of tea soon. So that's all good to go. You remember he was your old boss, Dale? Oh yeah. Anyway, um, and then so yeah, we basically just did these. Started getting people together. It started with a ruck club, and then realised that they wanted to do something a bit sort of tougher. Although I know ruck club can be hard too, but they wanted to do a bit more building of muscle and strength work. So we decided we'd start doing some dumbbell work. Super simple, nothing crazy, no times on it, no real intensity, but just lifting around the campfire at like 6 in the morning. So we run that probably 3, 4 mornings a week. And it's not just for veterans. This is for the local community as well, because the local community then realized that what they pay for and that goes directly into him being able to do specific outreach programs where they might not do any training, but they do other stuff. Like said, the best thing is he gets them around a campfire, gives them a piece of wood, and then tells them that they're going to whittle a spoon. And he said, you just see these guys who are used to shooting people for a living looking at each other like, what? I'm going to make a spoon. Like, this is so lame. And then about 2 minutes later, they're like, this is really cool. And then they're kind of like doing this thing. And then they're all looking at each other going like, I'm going to beat you. Like my spoon's going to be better. So, and I think it's just kind of directing their mind onto stuff just seems to be super beneficial. So yeah, we've got that going, ruck clubs going, lifting sessions going for the local community, and it's going really well. In fact, I'm having to push it off a little bit because they're like, "Can we do this like every morning?" I'm like, "No, so on a lion. Like 6 in the morning is aggressive, man. I did that for 17 years. Leave me alone." But it's yeah, super cool, super beneficial, and similar things to what drew me to MetFix was the passion, the purpose, the mission kind of thing. Selfishly, it makes me feel good by helping others. So, yeah, 100% love it as well as the next level shithousery that happens all the time. So, that's definitely a high motivator for me in remaining involved with it. So it's going to continue to grow, and he's looking at funding to actually get a building built as well. Because currently we just do it under a slung up parachute directly over a campfire, which is great for now. Winter might be a bit emotional, but they make it a bit tough up here, so it should be all good. But yeah, it's good.
Can you run me through like what exactly a session looks like, how it's similar to a normal class, how in what aspects is it different?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we purposefully kind of get the work done fast so as then we can facilitate, because people are scratched out the hour. So they kind of like the hour is set aside. So I'm almost like if I push the envelope right the way up till like minute 60 on training, then likelihood they're going to have to leave to get back to life, right? So we've kind of facilitated it where I almost look at it as a 30-30 split, which might mean they, get a little less volume, but that's no drama. But I'll train them for the first half an hour, and then leading into the second half an hour, then that becomes a lot more kind of, we'll put the brew on or the wet on. That's a little bit nuance for you that I've learned over the years as well. The army side call it a brew, but the navy side call it a wet. There we go. So you're very welcome. So So I got educated on all of this. I'm like, do you want a brew? And then all the Marines go, "Oh, what? It's all wet." I'm like, what are you talking about? Anyway, I'm educated. I'm getting learned.
Look at this.
So,
Look at this
so then we'll,
cultural exchange we have.
mate, it's like a different language. Then one of them will say like, this is hoofing. One of them will say what you're talking about. Like it's another language, mate. It's super weird. Anyway, so yeah, then we facilitate just, most of the time you don't lead anything. You just sit down. The excuse is the cup of whatever. And then just everyone kind of sits around and they start talking and things. So it's a perfect time to start sliding in when people are asking us about nutrition. Generally, it's just about life. Currently, because our kids are all off on holiday, it might be, there's rules, right? So what goes on at the campfire stays at the campfire. So I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. But there might be, as much as we love our kids, there might also be an element of it being a safe space to maybe unload about our kids all at the same time. Give me a nod on the
Mm.
screens if everybody feels me right there. Yeah, yeah. We love those little beauties, but my goodness, sometimes it's nice to know that it isn't just ours that are absolute dimwits. Anyway,
Savages.
yeah, yeah, you got it. So it's good. So it's just an ability to share. So yeah, that's basically how we break it up. That's probably where I've done it differently in the past, where I would have been like, how do I jam my hour to make it, as movement impactful as possible, as coaching intense as I can. Now it's probably just I'm trying to almost delineate it, right? Boom, get those two halves in there so as I can be like, right, that half's for training, the next bit's for connection and a little bit of uh just getting to know each other as well. Because we live so rural and remote as well, a lot of these characters really don't know each other. They come from sort of different areas to drive on in. So it's a good way for us to connect people as well and get them together. So that's perfect opportunity for us when I'm not being too forceful, but when I turn up with this and they ask the inevitable question, like, hey, what is MetFix? And I'm like, stand by, my fitness friend. You wait an extra 30 minutes and I'm going to bore you to tears with this stuff. Here we go. And then after about 5 minutes, they're like, all right, shut up. I'm not interested anymore. So I'll play that game. I'll make it 10 minutes next week and I'll go that way.
Yeah.
But it's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the long way of doing it, Dale, mate. But yeah, that's how it's running so far.
No, that's great. And I think, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, but I can see exactly what that program is, programs I ran. And then like I always keep referring to Michelle because she's kind of the subject matter expert on that specialty populations course. But can you kind of overlay what she talks about in her lecture on the program that you're a part of? Like,
Yeah.
compare, contrast. And what I'm getting at is like, I see everybody on the screen here, and I know like everybody kind of has their own unique interests, and really like specialty populations just comes down to a couple things. Like what is the owner's interest? Meaning like, could it be underserved youth? Could it be a veteran population? Could it be elderly? And two is like the opportunity. So like you might have a heart for something, but if that population isn't near your gym, you're kind of shit out of luck anyways. So it's combining the interest and the opportunity and then applying the program to it. So can you talk more about that, Karl?
Yeah, absolutely. So the application is fun, right? Especially with that community, because they used to be pretty damn tough. And I kind of put used to, because a lot of the time is they're still real tough up here, but things have kind of gone a little awry elsewhere, let's say. So, they still come in with the same mentality of I've got to win here. And so I think a lot of the time is just we take the win element out of it. So as it kind of like brings down the intensity level just a touch. And what I mean by that is there's not really much for time. It's just here's the work that we got to get through today. And I'll give rep ranges rather than absolute, so as they're not trying to gut themselves, I kind of go, so today's session was supposed to be like 10 of a load of different stuff. But I was like, 6 is totally cool. So 6 to 10 is our rep range. Land in there, make sure it's done well, and then we're all good. And so if people are all doing different rep ranges and stuff, then it's kind of hard to get the competitive side up. That doesn't mean we make it easy. I'm still going to go around and challenge them and make it tough for them because they still want tough. I mean, I don't think they're going to come around and lift dumbbells around a campfire in the middle of the Scottish Highlands unless they want a little bit of kind of tough in their life, I guess. But so we'll still do that. And the smack talk is normally super high. But realistically, it's just trying to make sure that they don't end themselves. Because a lot of the conversations that I'll have with folk on a one-to-one session, I could pretty much sum it up as please don't break me. because they'll know my background. And they'll know, all the taglines that come alongside, like having an association with CrossFit and etc. like that. So they'll already be like, "Oh fuck, I'm going to get burpeed until my eyes bleed," kind of jive. Like they've already got that kind of fear already instilled. And don't get me wrong, sometimes folk need burpee until their eyes bleed. But in this instance, what I kind of like rein it a hell of a lot in and just sort of say, "I got you. If anything's not where it needs to be, let me know. We'll work around it." They normally bring some junk too, you know, especially with, I mean, it's not a world that I've ever known, but, apparently when you get blown up in things, like shrapnel sticks in you and stuff, and, things don't work as well anymore. So go figure. So I have to, obviously, there's some things where I have to work around there as well, where they're just like, "Yeah, stuff's not feeling great today." But I mean, that's bread and butter to trainers from our backgrounds, if I'm honest, mate. So that stuff isn't too hard. I think a lot of that's just the practicalities. But talking to people is the tough thing. The overriding thing is normally they'll be like, "Ooh," in front of their pals, um, which is fine, like "I'll do whatever you say, boss," and all this stuff. And you're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, okay." But offline, and when you're talking to them one to one, they're normally deathly afraid of getting snapped off, right? Injured again and broken and bust up. So making sure that you can kind of like allay those fears is a smart play. And then making sure that kind of as they're earning their way towards working a little harder, then you just kind of remove the competitive element just for the start,
Mhm.
and then they can start earning it a bit more down the time. That seemed to work for me anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's worked.
yeah. And I can, on the programming side, my own personal experience is our bread and butter is like partner and team workouts.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
there's a lot of things that can happen when you do that. A couple of the macro things you're working on besides the obvious fitness improvement is like you're working on like communication under stress. It's the quickest way to build camaraderie is when you put them on the same team versus like doing a similar workout and it's individual and they're kind of in their own headspace navigating that. When you put them on a team, it makes it a little you can work on a lot of things at the same time that you don't get access to when you're on the individual side. And two, it's just like,
And I sneak.
go ahead, brother.
Sorry,
Sorry.
buddy.
No, you're good.
No, all good. You're mid flow. Do it. Sorry, buddy. That's my bad.
No, no. And then so it's just like, like I said, working under stress, communicating under stress, and then being able to celebrate that win at the end, working together. And
Yeah.
we always say like on the programming aspects, like low skill, high output. Then if especially in Karl's example, if you're doing basically 30 minutes of movement, 30 minutes of group counseling, essentially, you may not be teaching the snatch during those 30 minutes, but you might say, "Hey, here's a rock, put it over your head," and ensure they're moving safely and kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think the thing that I learned as well was, yeah, those are great points, mate. Like lower skill, but also the least that you can make it look like old army PT or old forces PT, the better. Because like it's more of a hook to get people in and interested, right? So we say to folk, that we're doing strength training. That's it. I don't even mention the conditioning part because normally it's this crew. They're like, "No, I don't want to do that." Like I don't want to do rucking. I don't want to do like 5 milers. I don't want to do any of this stuff. Like, no, no, been there, done that. Whereas if you just say, "No, man, it's just strength training," and then you basically sneak in, as we well know, some sprint interval stuff, but they're doing, version of like a DT-esque thing, or they're doing some deadlifts and they're doing some hang power cleans, then they're doing some overhead, and then they're resting, and then they're doing like little sprint intervals like that, and then you're doing some long drawn out 20-minute AMRAP vibe. You're ticking all those boxes of the metabolic conditioning that we want, but they're always holding load, so it doesn't kind of feel like the old, compartmentalized style of training that they always used to do, which was, you do a nuclear fuck ton of push-ups and sit-ups, and then you got a mile and a half run, and then and I know things have progressed a little bit, but the crew that I'm working with still belong to that kind of old school mentality. It's pretty rare that you have some of the newer lads who are coming through are like, "Oh yeah, I've done all this before," and I'm like, "Oh cool, that means you're an absolute ninja then. Show me what your air squat looks like," and then you're like, "Stop." That's normally how that works.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because we work with some guys now, and their only exposure to fitness is through jail, essentially.
Yeah, nice.
And so, but like bench press is like the universal language. And so what we'll do is when a group of new folks come in, because the way it works for us is every Wednesday now, a group comes in and unfortunately, like you can't make them all work out. It's got to be a voluntary thing. And so, same kind of thing. We start off with all this like high intensity, crazy looking stuff. And then like after a while, 90% of the group's like, nah, I'm not doing that. One day we did bench press to start. And then it's like everybody wanted to do bench press. And so that was kind of like our little gateway drug, if you will. And then it's just like, okay, sweet. So now we're just going to, do about 50% of what you did. And we're going to throw this rower on it. And let's just see how many reps and calories you can get. So yeah, you gotta adjust what you're doing to the audience that you have to kind of get more of a desired impact. So good to see that translates across the pond.
Man, you got to massage that fragile male ego at all times, my friend. That's how it works, man. We all just want to cuddle.
at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm right.
Well, look, we're getting towards the end here, and I want to leave room for questions instead of me firing them off all the time. So I'm just going to kind of open it up to the group here. You can just come off mute or raise your hand or drop them in the comments, and we'll get them going.
Let's go.
Don't be shy.
Okay, no one.
Go ahead, Lorna.
Lorna.
Do we have a date for the UK or Ireland Foundation? I'm so excited to do it. So is there a date in the diary or?
Well, yeah, it's about 90%. Am I going to get like shot if I give it away, Dale?
No, you're not. You're good to go.
Brilliant. Is it 13, 14? That rings a bell to me, or 14, 15, something like that. December, London. That's the one. That weekend anyway.
Thank you.
Getting released soon.
I'll be
No
there.
worries. More than welcome. Yeah, you will.
Good question, Laura.
There you go.
What else do we have, guys?
That's a question.
Go ahead, Lori.
Hey.
Yeah.
Regarding continuing education, I see we have the diabetes course up, which is great because Karl, I met you at Rogue. Thank you. You were awesome. My first segue into the training that is the MetFix seminar, right? So I signed up for the diabetes course and I was stoked to do it this weekend. Sorry, my husband's phone's ringing in the background. How do we access that once we have it? Because I don't know how to, it's like, hey, it's processing. And I was like, okay, but are you going to email it to me? Like, tell me about the diabetes course because I gave you my money, but I only have a small window to get it done.
It should. I'll run it down for you. Quick answer is I don't know exactly, but I'm fairly certain if you registered and paid for it, it should be showing up on your dashboard. Maybe if not, we'll handle that for you. But yeah, that's where all that. Like the short answer is going to be. Everything's going to be in your dashboard. I mean, that's kind of a cop-out answer, but that's the goal with all the tech stuff is you log into your account and everything should be showing up there. Okay. If it's not, please let us know and we'll square you away. Good question. What else do we have? Once, twice. Anybody? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. All right, sweet. Well, look, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for spending the hour with us. Like I said, we'll get these out once a month minimally. And then we just really appreciate you guys spending your time with us. Hopefully you picked up something. And like I said, we're really proud that Karl's on the team and going to spearhead across the pond for us. So thank you, buddy.
Welcome. Hopefully I won't miss it too much.
All right, guys. If you need anything, just make sure you can email Karl or myself, and we'll square you guys away. And hopefully I'll see you in real life and not behind the screen.